We're on.
Welcome, welcome.
Welcome.
Hey.
I love it. All right, we are back for another invigorating and fun educational time, I guess. I don't even know where I'm
Moment.
going. Yeah, moment.
In space and time.
With the relationship experience. I'm your host, Sarah J, and we've got the experts. Is it okay if I call you experts?
You better.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. Educational experts in the field of relationships. We've got Adrian! And we have got,
Krista.
oh my gosh, we've got Krista.
Obviously the most valuable member of this
Obviously.
team.
Come on.
Obviously.
Come on. Yeah.
So we talk every single time that we are getting together. We are talking about relationships and the different aspects of them, and then some really amazing tools that we can add to our belts to just be better functioning for ourselves and for everybody else. So Adrian, I would love for you to break down. I heard before we hit play, you were talking about it. It sounded like a foreign language that you said. So I would love for you to just say what this one is about.
So this topic is going to be deciding versus sliding.
Okay.
And really like a clear example I can give you of deciding versus sliding. I'll just start off with a quick funny example. When I was younger, maybe 7th grade, 6th grade. Actually, no, that's a lie. 5th grade, we were elementary still, and we wanted to hang out with the cool kids, which was my brother's crew. They were 7th and 8th graders. And so we're like, hey, let's go to the backyard. They got a trampoline. They're always doing fun things. Fun meaning crazy. And so let's go back there and let's try to hang out with them. And so we went back there. Big mistake. They were like, hey, you know what? They're like, there was a hole in the ground, and there was fence poles next to it, but the hole in the ground had a beehive in it. And so they were like, you're not down to go poke that beehive hole? Like, and I'm like, no, I'm not down. And they were like, all right, yeah, we knew you weren't down. And so that made me more angry.
But I am down.
Wait, but I am down. Yeah, so reverse psychology. They use that on me.
No.
And so, me and my friend Oscar, he's my best friend at the time, we're like, you know what, let's go and let's show them up. Let's show them up. We can hang out with them.
Cares?
Kind of a thing. And so we grabbed this fence pole,
Oh, no.
and Oscar's promising me he's going to be behind me the whole time. And so I went and I poked this beehive hole, and I've never seen more bees come out in my entire life.
Slow motion too.
It kind of looked slow motion the way they all came out. I look back, my friend Oscar was already halfway down but it's funny because I slid into that decision. Right? I didn't make a decision. I had already made up my mind, but then I still continued to fight with that thought, and I actually went on and did what was risky, and I had to face the consequences. I got stung in the back 3 times. All my friends got stung except one. He ran to his house. His house was right there. So
okay.
yeah, he went inside his house. My brother got stung.
Dang.
Almost everyone got stung. Yeah.
Okay.
And so
Everybody learned from
yeah. So there are consequences to sliding when you're not really deciding and measuring those like risk factors and what can happen afterwards. I
Okay.
think that's a good start there.
So it sounds like what you're saying is sliding is not deciding, right? It's ending up in a situation and not clearly having thought it through and just ending up there and having to deal with the consequences of not having thought it through.
Okay.
Is the way that we word it. And in life, there's lots of ways that you end up in situations and you're like, how did I get here? You ever drive down the road and it's like you're going to the same place that you do, like work from home to work or school, and you get home and you're like, I don't even remember driving.
Yeah.
Like, you know you did it, but you're like, I have no memory because we're going on remote, right? You're just, I didn't really make a decision. I just slid into that because it's so programmed. And I feel like that can happen in life is if we don't make a decision, we just run on robot mode and you just end up going places.
Just zoning out because you do it every single day
or just zoning out in life on big decisions. And you're like, how did I end up here? You know, last episode we talked about your future.
Yeah.
You had this plan and now you're not there. How did I end up here? And you have to ask yourself those questions. And so I had a situation in a relationship that now that I look back, I realize I slid into this dating relationship. At the time, I wouldn't have labeled it that, but I was in my late 20s. You know, I wasn't married, and everyone I know was, getting engaged, getting married, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? I need to find somebody. So I met this guy. He was a great guy. There was nothing wrong with him. And we went on a date, and the date went well. And then he was like, so do you want to hang out next weekend? And I was like, sure. And so that's kind of how it went. And then 4 months down the road, he was like, so we're dating. And I was, yeah. I mean, we've hung out every weekend. I really enjoy you. So yeah, I guess we're dating. And we were together for a full year. And it was near the end of the year where I realized I don't think we have anything in common with our future.
Oh, wow.
Like, you want a completely different thing than I want. You're a great guy. You're not a jerk. Like, you've never cheated. I don't have a really good reason to break up with you, other than we want two different things. And if I would have had that conversation with you, first off, we probably would have just ended up great friends. But because we slid into that relationship, we dated, and it wasn't a waste. I learned a lot, but it didn't need to be a dating relationship. It would have been a great friendship. And so we ended up breaking up because we wanted two different things in life. I ended up vomiting over that breakup. I couldn't even.
Man.
I was so stressed because he was such a good guy.
Yeah, didn't want to break him.
And that it pushed me over the edge. But we have the utmost respect for each other. We went our separate ways. Everything worked out. But I look back and I'm like, I totally slid into that one. Like, I never made a conscious decision. Yes, I want to date this person. It just happened. Like, we just ended up dating. And it was okay. But would I have done it differently if I had consciously decided, how do I want this to look?
Right.
Yeah. And so that's really what Decide Don't Slide is for us, is when you approach different things in life, are you just letting them happen to you?
Okay.
Or are you processing through them so that you can make a conscious decision of how this is going to affect you?
I've got a question because I have a story, but I don't know if it's a slide or decide type of thing. So the very first time that I got spanked at school, because I went to a Catholic school when I was little, I had got caught. I was, I think we had gotten our tests back or something like that, and I had gotten an F. And I decided I didn't want to accept the F, so I went up to the desk and I took the red pen and I changed it to an A, but I didn't know the teacher was right behind me when I changed it to an A. So she asked me, and I lied about it, and so then I had to go to the principal's office and get spanked and all of that stuff. But I slid into making a bad decision and went with it. Is that sliding, or is that what? That's not really either of those things.
It could be. I mean, when you were writing that down, were you thinking, what's going to happen if I get caught?
I don't think I think I was just going with it,
So
and I was like, I have an A
sliding.
now. Okay, yeah. I had convinced myself that I was never going to get into trouble.
And sliding is not thinking about what could happen if.
Okay.
Sliding is just going, we're going to just do it. And there is no results on the other end.
Okay, so yes, I totally slid into that one.
Deciding would be, okay, if I change this, what could happen? And then knowing what could happen and choosing it anyway.
Okay.
Then you've just chosen a bad choice. But
okay.
but that, I mean, who didn't try that?
Right.
We all tried that.
Yeah, and that's why this topic is so important.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, and the more that you get into these things and you're able to, as you're sliding, you're able to recognize that you're sliding and stop yourself before you make that decision, or be like, if I go far, if I poke the bee, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, you still made a conscious effort to poke the bees.
Yeah.
But you didn't think about, are they going to come out and sting me? So yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean that you're not a robot zoning out as you're doing the object.
Exactly.
Like, I still made the decision to date that guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, every time was like, yeah, we're gonna hang out next weekend. Like, I wasn't zoning out, but I didn't think through, what would this look like long term? Like, I didn't process
that's the key. What is this going to look like long term? Because I think a lot of us can get into that situation with a relationship, because we come into a relationship where you're looking at somebody and you are seeing the best parts of them because of your personality, and so you're going to overlook a bunch of things.
Yes.
But as you're sliding into realization that we have nothing in common, I don't even really like this guy that much, and it is not. You're making a conscious effort at that point that you've said, I don't really like them very much. If you are not changing, now you've made a conscious decision to be a participant
in your bad choice.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, to a certain degree, I'd love it to be as simple as that. Like, you know the consequences and you chose it anyway, so therefore it's a bad choice. But everyone knows that life is not simple.
No.
There's other extenuating factors, like maybe there's kids involved. Maybe there's financial investment involved. Like, you can't just step out as quickly as you'd want to. And so we'd love to say, like, oh, now that you know it's a bad choice, you continue and it's your own consequences. That's not always the case. But if you think about it before you get there, you can avoid the risks. And that's the biggest thing. Is
becoming,
before you get there.
Yes.
And if you realize that once you're there, it's a different thing. And we'll talk about that in a later episode of, like, what happens now that you're there.
Yes.
But before you get there, like, how do I get out of, how do I avoid that possible risk? And it's not just in relationships, it's in multiple areas of our lives that we can find those risks.
And I think it's a beautiful thing to be okay with. Sometimes you're going to make a bad choice and you're going to have to sit in that.
Mhm.
But if you can learn certain things about how you got there, why you chose to do it that way, how would you do it differently if you ever came across this, I think if you do hit that thing again, you're going to be a little bit more assured about, like, I'm making the right decision instead of sliding into, like, just like whatever is whatever, it'll be what it'll be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, these are good.
Yeah.
I like these. If anybody when you're listening to this stuff and you have like a story that just fits perfectly with this, we want to hear your slides. We want to hear all these things.
Absolutely. When we talk about it, like, you go really into detail about some of the risks that, you know, people can take, especially young people. You know, and, you know, if you were to do this, what could possibly be your consequences? And so, can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so when you jump into a relationship and just slide into it, some of the possible consequences we like to point out are, first and foremost, our valley is known for STDs, STIs. Unfortunately, that's the truth, right?
Yeah.
Syphilis up 200%. That could happen.
Yeah. Not to brag
you know
about
that.
it, but Washington State and Yakima County is doing, if we were trying to win an award.
We are winning.
We would win that award, and
We are
that's
crushing
very unfortunate, but that's
It
the
is.
kind of valley we live in, and so that's why it's important to know these things,
Yes.
be educated in this area. Another thing is depression, heartbreak, anxiety, lack of trust in a future partner. If you don't look for the red flags and watch out for those things that could be caution signs, or maybe a lot of the things we talk about too, it's funny because when we look at the students and we're like, have you ever been in a relationship where you know it's toxic, but you need to get out? They don't really.
They don't understand.
They don't. Yeah, but then you're like, have you ever had a friend who's been in a relationship who you seen that, and then they right away they look at each other like, oh, that person has, but they can't see it within themselves, right?
We all don't see it.
But they see it in someone else, right? And so it's important sometimes maybe to even like consider, hey, is my best friend telling me that the relationship I'm in toxic? Like, are there red flags associated? Do I need to pay attention to that? What's really going on under the surface? Because there's a lot of things that come after that, going into a relationship like that. Like we talked about, anxiety, depression, STIs, STD, pregnancy. Now you can't stand this person, and you're just sitting there in isolation, thinking like this could have been, but it wasn't because of the decisions you made.
Long-term effects from a moment of, and that could be really hard on you to know that this isn't a good thing, but you just keep thinking it's going to get better. And I think that we all have that in us where we want to be fixers, and maybe we didn't get that love, so I'm going to give it to this person because they need it. If they're broken, it's not your job to fix them.
Absolutely. It takes healthy people to make a healthy relationship, and it's okay to take a step back so someone else can become healthy. You know, it doesn't mean that, you know, they're a bad person or they won't ever have a healthy relationship. It just means they need to work on them first and giving them the space to do that.
What a powerful thing to say too. And if they're like, well, any negative comment after you say, and I think we need to take a break because I want to work on myself. I know you need to work on yourself, and I know if you're 14 years old, obviously you're not saying it this way, but those are huge. Those are life-altering moments, and you are going to gain so much strength by being able to step out of that, and also giving a gift to that person because they're in a really negative cycle that they just keep doing this, and they're going to hurt anybody that's around them. So you don't want to become a punching bag for somebody who's, I mean, but this is life, and you don't know these things until you're in them. And so I feel blessed to be able to be in this room with you two and have you two gain all of this information and then share it with other people, because everybody needs to be reminded.
Yeah. And we always say something along these lines is learn from our experiences so you don't have to experience it yourself. Everything we talk about, make sure that you take into hand, because we don't want you to go through it, kind of a thing.
Yeah. I mean, we learn the mistakes we make light our future. There's a saying in Kenya, and I love it, and it's the bridges we burn light your path. And I was like, you know, we hear such negativity towards, you know, burnt bridges, but if you can use those past experience to be your fuel, to point you to a better future, then it's not time
To
wasted.
see those red flags
Yes.
a little bit brighter.
You know, it's not just in relationships, it's even in self. Like, if you choose not to exercise or eat healthy, what are the consequences? If you choose, to become addicted to nicotine or addicted to drugs, what are the consequences? If you, steal something from a store and get caught and now you have a record, what are the consequences? It's in so many things in your life, and it's the same thing, if you choose to cheat, what could possibly be the consequences?
You're going to get spanked.
We just ask that you weigh the consequences. Are you willing to embrace that risk? And if you know the risk and you're still willing to take it, you've decided to take that risk. But there's a big difference between I thought this through, and there was a clip we show in the classroom, and I wish we could show here, but maybe we can link it.
Okay.
And it shows these 5 gentlemen that were just hanging out one day, throwing rocks over an overpass, just for fun, because they're young and teenagers and not thinking it through. And one of the rocks hits a car and actually kills a driver.
Oh my gosh.
And then they actually get arrested and charged with manslaughter. And so we asked the students, like, I guarantee none of them woke up that morning and thought, I bet you we're going to kill somebody.
Right.
They just thought, what are we going to do today?
Right.
Like, let's get some McDonald's and then let's throw rocks. That sounds awesome. But then their actions resulted in this. Now, that's an extreme. I mean, most people won't think, oh, if you throw rocks, you're going to kill somebody. But that's what happened. Yeah. And so we say, don't avoid a situation because you know it's going to turn out bad. Avoid it because you don't know. Like, you don't know what could happen. So choose the safest route. There are times for risks, and that's okay. Moving to Africa, joining a Norwegian cruise line.
For sure, yeah.
Working at 7.
Yeah,
there are times of risks, and some of them turn out great, but it's always weighing what could the consequences be.
And holding on to something because you're barreling towards something that this is going to be so bad when I tell people. Yes, but that's okay. I'd better let it go now instead of torturing yourself and creating scenarios. You don't know what's going to happen, and you have to pull a trigger.
Yeah.
You have to pull a cord. You have to just change the trajectory of where you're going.
And I think there's something to be said about allowing yourself room for failure, because there's not a person on the planet that hasn't made a bad choice or slid into something. We're human. Everyone slid into something, and we all have going, oh, I wish I hadn't bought that car or dated that person or done that. We all have something. And so if you feel like someone's going to judge you or hold it against you, they've had to work through this themselves. And if they are, then there's still some stuff they need to work on.
Yeah.
Because we've all been there. Every single one of us. And when you're young, you feel like you're the only one. No, we've all had those moments. And
no one understands me. Possibly.
There's a lot of people who do. And maybe finding that right person to share that with and realize that we're human and we're going to make human mistakes, and that's okay.
And it's beautiful. Those mistakes will bring you to the coolest parts of your life, and you just don't even know. But you can look back and be like, if I wouldn't have gone through that crap, I wouldn't be able to appreciate these cool things over here.
So I think the last question that we teach the students is, how do you decide?
Yeah. So deciding. So we've talked about sliding. Now let's talk about deciding. I think deciding has 4 different components to it. And the first one is take your time. Take your time when you're dating someone, you're getting to know someone. Because it's important for you to really get to know who they are. A lot of people will put up the best versions of themselves in the beginning. And this is what we call the euphoric stage, where your brain chemicals, which we'll talk about in the next podcast, and so this is the euphoric phase where you two are head over heels for each other, and you see no red flags, and everything is good, and they could literally cuss you out, and you think it's the cutest thing in the world. And so, so it's important they could get angry, and I remember, this is my personal story, is I remember Marlena, when she would get mad, and she would, like, cuss, I'd be like, oh, that was so cute. I want to see her do it again. And so like even in
poker just to get
just to get, and so like that's kind of a toxic thing to do there, but it's also flirtatious, right?
Kind of.
You don't want to just continue to get them angry, but anyways, you don't see any of those red flags. Everything is just leveled, and it's important for you to take your time so you can start seeing them for who they really are.
Absolutely. Yeah, you take your time, you get to know them, and then decide when you start to see who they really are, is this what I want in my life? Everyone has red flags, and we're going to talk about that in another podcast. But is this the one that fits me? What does this person bring to this relationship that is going to, help me and help them? and then make that decision once you've thought it through.
Am I having to give up things in
Yes.
order to? Because sometimes we'll do that. We'll minimize a little bit of our personality because we really want this to work, or we think that maybe they'll change, and they will change, but not in the way that you think they're changing. They're gonna revert back to the way that they've always been, and that's not a knock on them. That is maybe you creating a scenario where you assume if I act a certain way, long term they're going to turn into what I need. Don't do that. That's bad.
And giving people the space to become the better version of themselves, and just allowing them to have that space, and that's okay. And I think a lot of times, especially as women, and I can't speak for every person, I can't speak for everyone's mindset, but I would say as a young girl, I would constantly try to explain why it should work. Even though there were tons of reasons why it shouldn't, I would hold on to that one reason why it should, because I wanted it to work so badly that I would ignore the risks of sliding, because I just wanted it to work.
Like the failure is unacceptable, and if I can't make this work, I can't make anything
This
work.
is my one shot.
Right.
So I have at 14, I'll never find love again. And if I don't make this work, it's over, and I'll take every risk because I'm just so desperate to find this connection. And then realizing that no, it can get better from there, and this isn't your only chance.
And at 14, if you're feeling like that, I mean, I get it, because hormones, and I was one of those girls that, I wanted to date everybody. I had crushes on everybody. I assumed everybody had a crush on me. I never dated, though. And I always felt like, gosh, why, though? Like, why does nobody, but I wouldn't have been healthy to have dated, because I didn't know what I was looking for. I just wanted somebody to love me. What does that mean? I don't know. I think I know. I see them over there, and they seem really happy.
Looks great.
Yeah, it looks great. That should be perfect.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I didn't date.
Yeah.
And that's what sliding is going, I know what I want, but I don't know how to get it, and I don't know what this looks like healthy, but I'm just going to go for it, and not having thought it through.
I think that's powerful, because everybody slides. So even you saying that out loud, I can think of 10 different times that it'll work out. I'll just kind of let you can lose years of your life wasting it thinking that you're sliding into a positive situation, and you are allowing all of these negative things to just take you farther and farther away from it.
But if you follow the trend of like, hey, we're going to know what kind of future we want from our last episode, know who we are from the first episode, then my future, and that will also help you know that this is in the direction I want to go. But if you don't know who you are, if you don't know what kind of goals you have, then it makes it harder to decide. But when you have that in place, it makes it a lot easier and say, actually, I want to go to college, so I'm going to focus on this instead. And then you're able to reason those things out. So it's a process.
Yes.
Yeah.
These are great. These are absolutely great. We have got all of our different episodes up now, so you can check them all, and they kind of work in order, or however you're kind of feeling, whatever you need. And if there's ever any questions that maybe we didn't cover something fully and you want to know, we'll be very interactive. So definitely, we've got the links in the bio of this thing. And again, thank you. Anything else before we wrap this one up?
I'm just really looking forward to next time.
Yeah, same here.
Same.
Super excited.
Woohoo.
Talk to you guys again.
All right.
See ya.